My daughter ripped the wedding dress I made for 6 months and yelled, "Old hag, stop pretending." So I made sure she never forgot who raised her. When my daughter Brittany grabbed the wedding dress I'd spent 6 months hand-sewing and ripped it down the middle while screaming, "This ugly trash isn't good enough for my wedding, you old hag. Stop pretending you're some kind of designer." I simply smiled, walked to my sewing room and made one phone call. By the next morning, she had discovered that her dream wedding venue had mysteriously canceled her booking. By that afternoon, her cake designer had backed out. And by evening, half her guest list was asking uncomfortable questions about how she really treated her mother. But that was just the beginning. They thought they were dealing with a heartbroken old seamstress who would quietly accept their cruelty. They were about to learn I was a retired fashion industry executive who still had connections everywhere that mattered. Justice must be restored and arrogance punished. You won't believe what I did next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. For 28 years, I thought I had raised the perfect daughter. Brittany was my miracle baby, born after 3 miscarriages, and from the moment she entered this world, I devoted everything to making her life magical. When she was 5, I hand-sewed her Halloween costumes. When she was 10, I taught her to embroider flowers on pillowcases. When she turned 16, I designed her prom dress from scratch, a gorgeous sapphire blue creation that made her look like a princess. She hugged me that night and said, "Mom, you're the most talented person I know. I should have seen the warning signs earlier." It started small. During college, she began making little comments. "Mom, maybe you should update your style. Or that looks a bit homemade, don't you think?" I brushed it off as normal young adult rebellion. After she graduated and got her marketing job in the city, the comments became sharper. When she brought her fiancé Kyle home for the first time, I noticed how she steered him away from my sewing room. "Oh, that's just Mom's hobby room," she said dismissively. Hobby room? That room contained 40 years of professional experience, awards from fashion shows, and designs that had been featured in magazines. But I stayed quiet. I wanted her to be happy. When Brittany announced her engagement, I was thrilled. "Mom," she said, pulling me aside, "I want you to make my wedding dress. Something simple, nothing too fancy. Kyle's family is very sophisticated." I spent weeks designing the most beautiful gown I had ever created. French lace, hand-beaded details, a silhouette that would make Grace Kelly jealous. I worked 12 hours a day, pricking my fingers until they bled, creating something that would make my daughter feel like the goddess she was. The night before she was supposed to come for the final fitting, I heard her on the phone with her friend Casey. "I'm just letting Mom make a dress to keep her busy," she laughed. "Obviously, I'm not wearing some homemade thing to my wedding. I already ordered a $5,000 designer gown from Milan. But don't tell her. I don't want to hurt her feelings before the wedding." My heart stopped. 6 months of work. 6 months of love poured into every stitch. And she was planning to throw it away like garbage. But the real betrayal was yet to come. The next morning, Brittany arrived with Kyle and his mother, Patricia. The moment they walked into my living room, I knew something was wrong. Brittany's fake smile, Kyle's uncomfortable fidgeting, Patricia's barely concealed sneer as she looked around my modest home. "Let's just get this over with," Brittany muttered under her breath. I brought out the dress, my hands trembling with pride and anticipation. The morning light caught the delicate beadwork, making it shimmer like captured starlight. It was a masterpiece, the kind of gown that would be passed down through generations. Patricia's reaction was immediate. "Oh my," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "How quaint." Kyle cleared his throat awkwardly. "It's very handmade looking." But it was Brittany's face that broke my heart. Instead of wonder, instead of gratitude, I saw pure embarrassment. She looked at the dress the way someone might look at roadkill. "Mom," she said slowly, "this isn't really what I had in mind." "What do you mean?" I asked, confusion flooding through me. "We talked about every detail. The neckline, the length, the sleeves." "I know, but..." She glanced at Patricia, who gave her an encouraging nod. "It's just not very modern." Kyle's friends are all fashion industry people, photographers, influencers. "This looks like something from a costume shop." The words hit me like physical blows. 40 years of professional experience dismissed as costume shop quality. Perhaps, Patricia chimed in, you could return it to wherever you bought it and put the money towards something more appropriate? That's when Brittany laughed. Actually laughed. Mom didn't buy this, Patricia. She made it. In her little sewing room. The way she said little sewing room, like it was a child's play area instead of a professional workspace, made my chest tighten with rage. Well, Patricia continued, I'm sure it was a lovely hobby project. But surely you understand this is Kyle's wedding too. His reputation matters. And then came the moment that changed. You know what, Mom? Brittany's voice turned sharp, cruel. I'm tired of pretending this is okay. Before I could stop her, she grabbed the dress and yanked hard. The sound of tearing lace filled the room like a gunshot. Brittany, I screamed, lunging forward, but she yanked again, ripping the bodice completely away from the skirt. This ugly trash isn't good enough for my wedding, you old hag. Stop pretending you're some kind of designer. You're embarrassing me in front of Kyle's family. Kyle stood there like a statue. Patricia actually smiled. 6 months of work. Destroyed in seconds. By my own daughter. But as Brittany threw the ruined pieces on the floor, something shifted inside me. The heartbreak crystallized into something harder, sharper. Something dangerous. I said quietly, walking to my sewing room. You should all leave now. They couldn't get out fast enough, Brittany complaining loudly about drama and oversensitivity as they slammed my front door. I stood in my sewing room, surrounded by 4 decades of memories, holding the torn pieces of lace. And then I remembered who I used to be. Vivian Harper wasn't just some hobby seamstress. I had been head of design at Morrison & Associates for 15 years. The woman who had connections with every major fashion house, wedding planner, photographer, and venue coordinator in 3 states. I had retired early to raise Brittany, but I had never lost my network. I walked to my desk and pulled out a leather-bound address book that Brittany had probably never noticed. Hundreds of contacts. Favors owed. Professional relationships built over decades. My phone was charged. My reputation was intact. And my daughter had just declared war on the wrong woman. Time to make some calls. The first call went to Amanda Chun at Riverside Manor, the venue where Brittany was supposed to have her dream wedding. Vivian Harper. Amanda squealed when she heard my voice. I was just thinking about you. Remember that gorgeous mother of the bride dress you designed for the governor's daughter? I still get inquiries about it. Amanda, I need a favor, I said. My daughter Brittany Walsh has a booking with you for next month. I need you to cancel it. The line went quiet. Cancel? But Vivian, we're booked solid for the next 2 years. People would kill for that date. I know. And I'm calling in 15 years of professional relationship to ask you to do this for me. Amanda's voice grew serious. What did she do? I told her everything. The dismissal, the cruelty, the destruction of the dress. By the end, Amanda was furious on my behalf. Consider it done, she said. I'll call her this morning and tell her we've had a family emergency and have to cancel. And Vivian? I'm keeping that date open for someone who deserves it. The second call went to Marcus Thompson, the most sought-after wedding photographer in the state. Vivian, my favorite designer. Please tell me you're coming out of retirement. Marcus, I need you to cancel a booking for Brittany Walsh. The marketing girl? With the pretentious mother-in-law? Oh honey, I was dreading that wedding anyway. She sent me a list of inspiration photos that looked like a tacky magazine spread. Consider it done. Third call. Helena's Custom Cakes. Vivian Harper. The woman who taught me everything I know about elegant design. Fourth call. Enchanted Florals. The Vivian Harper? Who got me my first magazine feature. Fifth call. Harmony Strings Quartet. Of course I'll cancel for you, Vivian. Anyone who would treat you that way doesn't deserve beautiful music. By noon, Brittany's perfect wedding was falling apart like a house of cards. But I wasn't done. Not even close. What they didn't know was that I still sat on the board of the Fashion Institute, judged 3 major design competitions annually, and personally knew the editors of 5 bridal magazines. Brittany worked in marketing, which meant her professional reputation mattered. And I was about to make sure everyone in her industry knew exactly what kind of person she really was. My phone started ringing at 2:17 p.m. Mom, what did you do? Brittany's voice was pure panic. Riverside Manor just canceled on me. They said they had a family emergency, but I know that's BS. And Marcus Thompson just sent me an email saying he's no longer available for my date. I have no idea what you're talking about, sweetie, I said calmly. Maybe they just realized the kind of person you are. What is that supposed to mean? It means actions have consequences, Brittany. You destroyed something precious and called your mother an old hag. Did you think there wouldn't be any fallout? The line went quiet for a moment. Then, you can't do this to me. This is my wedding. Actually, I said, I can do whatever I want. Just like you did yesterday. She hung up on me. 20 minutes later, Kyle called. Mrs. Harper, I think there's been some misunderstanding. Brittany's really sorry about yesterday. She was just stressed about the wedding planning. Kyle, I said sweetly. Did you see what she did to my dress? Well, yes, but did you try to stop her? Silence. Did you tell your mother her comments were inappropriate? More silence. Then there's no misunderstanding. There are simply consequences. By evening, Brittany had lost her venue, photographer, cake designer, florist, and string quartet. Her perfect wedding was officially dead in the water. But the real show was just getting started. I had spent the afternoon making different kinds of calls. To colleagues, friends, professional contacts. Not asking for favors this time. Just sharing a story about a daughter who had publicly humiliated her mother and destroyed 6 months of handmade work. The fashion industry is smaller than people think. Everyone knows everyone. And everyone loves a good story about karma. By the time I went to bed that night, my story was spreading through professional networks like wildfire. And tomorrow it would reach the one place that would hurt Brittany most. Her workplace. The next morning I received an unexpected call from Rebecca Sullivan, editor of Metropolitan Bride magazine. Vivian, I heard the most awful story yesterday about a bride destroying her mother's handmade wedding dress. Please tell me it wasn't your daughter. Word was spreading faster than I had anticipated. By lunchtime, I had fielded calls from 6 different magazine editors, 3 fashion bloggers, and 2 local news producers. Everyone wanted to know about the dress, the destruction, and the consequences. I'm not trying to hurt my daughter, I told Rebecca honestly. But I'm not protecting her anymore either. If people ask me what happened, I'm going to tell them the truth. That afternoon, Patricia called me directly. Mrs. Harper, I think you're being very unreasonable. Brittany apologized, and we all make mistakes when we're stressed. Surely you can fix this little misunderstanding with your vendors. Patricia, I said calmly, when you were in my home, you called my life's work quaint and costume shop quality. You encouraged my daughter to humiliate me. Now you want me to fix her problems. I was just being honest about the dress. It wasn't really appropriate for our family's standards. Your family's standards? Patricia, I looked you up after you left my house. You work at a mid-level insurance company and live in a rental duplex. What exactly makes you think you're qualified to judge anyone's standards? The sharp intake of breath told me I had hit my target. Furthermore, I continued, I spent yesterday talking to friends in the fashion industry. Apparently, your son Kyle has been telling people he's a creative director, when he's actually a junior graphic designer who makes $35,000 a year. Interesting family trait, exaggerating your importance. The line went dead, but Patricia wasn't done. That evening, she and Kyle showed up at my front door with Brittany, all of them clearly trying to present a united front. Mom, this has gone far enough, Brittany announced. You're being vindictive and petty. I said I was sorry about the dress. I'll pay you for the materials. The materials cost $200, I said. My labor was worth about $3,000. But that's not really the point, is it? Kyle stepped forward. Mrs. Harper, I think you're being unfair. Yes, Brittany got upset, but she didn't mean those things she said. Kyle, she called me an old hag and said I was embarrassing her. She destroyed 6 months of work with her bare hands while your mother smiled and encouraged her. Which part did she not mean? Patricia tried a different approach. Look, we're all family here. Can't we just move past this and help Brittany have her special day? I looked at the three of them standing on my porch, trying to manipulate me into fixing problems they had created. And I realized something important. I was done being their victim. Brittany's special day? I repeated. What about my special day? The day I finally finished that dress and wanted to see my daughter's face light up? The day that got ruined when she chose cruelty over gratitude. Mom. No. Brittany. You want to fix this? Here's how you fix this. You publicly acknowledge what you did wrong. You apologize not just to me, but to everyone who heard you call me an old hag. You admit that you lied about my professional background, and that you plan to throw away my gift without telling me. You make this right the same way you made it wrong, publicly and completely. The three of them exchanged glances. That's ridiculous, Patricia said. No one needs to make some big public scene. Then enjoy planning a wedding with no vendors, I said and closed the door. What I hadn't told them was that their problems were about to get much worse. The next morning, I received a call from Jessica Martinez, Brittany's supervisor at the marketing firm where she worked. Ms. Harper, I'm calling about your daughter Brittany. I heard through some mutual contacts in the fashion industry about what happened with your wedding dress, and I wanted to reach out personally. My heart stopped. I hope Brittany isn't in trouble at work because of our personal situation. Actually, that's not exactly why I'm calling. Brittany listed you as a reference when she applied here, claiming you were a former fashion industry executive who could speak to her creative background and professional training. We never actually called you because her portfolio was strong enough on its own. But after hearing these stories about how she treats you, I felt a chill run down my spine. She listed me as a reference without telling me. She claimed you had trained her in design principles and professional networking, and that your connections had helped her understand client relations. We based part of our hiring decision on that background. Brittany had built her career partly on my reputation, the same reputation she had tried to destroy 3 days earlier. Jessica, I need you to know that while I did work in fashion design for many years, I never trained Brittany in any professional capacity. She showed no interest in my work and actively discouraged me from discussing it. As for my connections helping her understand client relations, I paused. I think recent events speak for themselves. I see. And would you still be willing to serve as a reference for her? I thought about Brittany ripping my dress, calling me an old hag, lying to get ahead at work while simultaneously being ashamed of my career. Jessica, if you called me today asking about Brittany's character, work ethic, and professional integrity, I would have to tell you the truth about what I've observed. I don't think that would help her career. 2 hours later, Brittany called me screaming, Mom, my boss wants to meet with me about my background information. What did you tell her? I told her the truth, Brittany. Something you apparently have trouble with. This could cost me my job. Like destroying my dress could have cost me my reputation if I let it slide. Like calling me an old hag could have cost me my self-respect if I accepted it quietly. That's completely different. This is my career. And that dress was my art, my profession, my gift to my daughter. But you destroyed it without a second thought. The silence stretched between us, and for a moment, I thought she might finally understand. Then she spoke, and I realized how wrong I was. Fine. You want to play this game? Kyle's uncle is a lawyer. We'll sue you for interfering with my career. She hung up before I could respond. But I wasn't worried about lawyers. I was worried that my daughter had become someone I no longer recognized. Kyle's uncle turned out to be a real estate lawyer who had no experience with employment law. But he was happy to send me a threatening letter demanding I cease and desist from spreading false information about Brittany. I forwarded the letter to my own attorney, a sharp woman named Caroline West who specialized in professional reputation cases. Vivian, this is laughable, Caroline said during our phone consultation. They're threatening to sue you for telling the truth about your own daughter's behavior? The letter actually helps your case if they try to claim defamation. They're essentially admitting she did these things. I don't want to sue anybody, Caroline. I just want Brittany to understand that actions have consequences. From what you've told me, she's about to learn that lesson whether she wants to or not. Caroline was right. By the end of the week, Brittany's wedding was completely dead. No venue, no vendors, no hope of booking anyone reputable on such short notice. Worse, her reputation in both the fashion and marketing industries was in tatters. Word had spread about the daughter who destroyed her mother's handmade wedding dress, and then tried to use legal threats to avoid consequences. That's when they showed up at my house for the final confrontation. All three of them, looking desperate and defeated. "Mom," Brittany said, her voice smaller than I'd heard it since childhood. "Please. I'm begging you. Make this stop." "Make what stop, Brittany?" "You know what. The vendors, the gossip, the problems at work. Please just call everyone and tell them it was a misunderstanding." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. Gone was the arrogant young woman who had ripped my dress and called me an old hag. In her place stood someone who was finally beginning to understand the weight of her choices. "Brittany, do you understand what you did wrong?" She glanced at Kyle and Patricia before answering. "I hurt your feelings about the dress." "No, that's not it. Try again." "I damaged your property?" "Closer but still not right." "Kyle? Patricia? Do either of you understand what happened in my living room?" They looked at each other uncomfortably but said nothing. "What happened," I said slowly, "is that my daughter publicly humiliated the woman who raised her, sacrificed for her, and loved her unconditionally. She destroyed something I created with my own hands as a gift for her special day. She did it in front of witnesses with malice while calling me names. And then, and this is the part that really matters, all three of you expected me to just take it quietly and move on." "But Mom." "But nothing, Brittany. You treated me like I was worthless. You acted like my love, my work, and my feelings didn't matter. You chose cruelty over kindness, entitlement over gratitude. And when I finally stood up for myself, you tried to use lawyers to force me back into silence." Tears were streaming down Brittany's face now. "I didn't mean to hurt you so badly. But you did mean to hurt me, didn't you? You wanted to make it clear that my gift wasn't good enough, that I wasn't sophisticated enough, that my love was embarrassing. You succeeded. You hurt me more than anyone ever has in my entire life. And now you want me to pretend it never happened so you can have your perfect wedding." The silence stretched between us, broken only by Brittany's quiet crying. Finally she spoke. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to understand something, Brittany. I'm not doing this to be cruel. I'm doing this because I love you too much to let you become a person who thinks she can treat people this way without consequences." I walked to my sewing room and returned with a photo of Brittany at age 10, wearing the first dress I had ever made for her, beaming with pride and joy. This is the daughter I raised. The little girl who used to sit in my sewing room and tell me I was magic. Somewhere along the way, you decided that my magic wasn't good enough anymore. You decided that I wasn't good enough anymore. And that breaks my heart more than any torn dress ever could. Brittany looked at the photo, her tears falling harder. "If you want to fix this, really fix this, you need to start with honesty. Not just to me but to yourself. Are you embarrassed by your mother? Do you think I'm beneath you? Because if that's how you really feel, then maybe it's better that we both know where we stand." For the first time in years, my daughter looked at me with real awareness. Not the dismissive glance of someone humoring an old woman, but the focused attention of someone finally seeing a person she had overlooked. "Mama, I think I forgot who you were. I was so worried about impressing Kyle's family, about seeming sophisticated, that I started seeing you through their eyes instead of my own. And what did you see through their eyes? Someone embarrassing. Someone old-fashioned. Someone who didn't matter." She wiped her eyes. "But that's not who you are. You're brilliant and talented, and I've been terrible to you. It wasn't everything I wanted to hear, but it was honest. And it was a start. The vendors aren't coming back, Brittany. Your reputation is damaged. These are real consequences that can't be undone with apologies. But if you want to rebuild both your wedding and our relationship, you need to do it based on truth instead of lies." 6 months later, Brittany and Kyle had a small ceremony in my backyard, officiated by our family pastor. Brittany wore a simple dress she bought off the rack, but she also wore a hand-beaded veil that I made for her, one that she asked for specifically and treasured visibly. The guest list was tiny. Family members who actually mattered, friends who had stood by them through the chaos, and a few colleagues who respected honesty over image. Patricia wasn't invited. During her vows, Brittany said something that made me cry. I promised to choose love over pride, gratitude over entitlement, and character over image. Because someone very wise taught me that real sophistication comes from how you treat the people who love you most. She looked directly at me when she said it. As for me, I started taking custom orders again. Word spread through my professional network that Vivian Harper was back, and my calendar filled up with clients who appreciated true craftsmanship. I even had 3 magazine features about vintage techniques for modern brides. Brittany helps me with marketing now. She's good at it, and she finally understands the value of what I create. We're rebuilding our relationship slowly, honestly, with mutual respect instead of fake pleasantries. She's learning that love isn't embarrassing. It's the most sophisticated thing in the world. And I learned that sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for someone is refuse to let them treat you badly. Justice was served, not with cruelty, but with consequences. And sometimes, that makes all the difference.
If this story got you thinking, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that hit deep, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And hey, if you know someone who needs to hear this one, share it with them. Thanks for watching.